Hello guys, Adam here from FourFourTwo. Now I know what you're thinking, this isn't Adam, the Adam that I'm used to. Correct, this is a different Adam. There is now two Adams on the team and I need to stop saying Adam. We've got Adam Cleary, who is currently in New York and Tokyo having a lovely time away, and me, Adam Monk. I am the new presenter who'll be working with Adam Cleary. Unfortunately, I'm also a Manchester City fan. I am also in a little bit of a makeshift setup today. I'm in my bedroom, but we've got a snazzy new studio coming along shortly, so we'll be there. But today, a makeshift one, much like Manchester United's back four this weekend. So let's talk about that. So where did it all go wrong? Well, let's look at the glaring errors. Now, I'm going to show you a picture now of me the last time Jonny Evans played in a Manchester derby. Okay, now that tells a story in of itself. I was 11 back then, and it was in the 6-1 that Jonny Evans last played in. I was in a Butlins watching the game with my United fan friends, and I was in year 8. So the fact that he's now playing against a 22-year-old Erling Haaland, I feel a bit sorry for him, truth be told. It's not fair. So what else was wrong with the lineup? Well, you might have noticed that Scott McTominay played in the 10 position. Now, it's felt a little bit like Scott McTominay has almost just been shoehorned into any role that he can sort of adapt to somewhat throughout his whole Manchester United career. You may or may not know that Scott McTominay used to be a striker in the academy, very two-footed, very good ball striker, very good finisher, and that's why he's got 3 goals this season. But playing him in a 10 automatically shoehorns Manchester United's best player, Bruno Fernandes, out wide. Another problem with United playing the system they did on McTominay in that 10 is it disrupted Manchester United's collective press. Now, I don't have a tactics board with me right now, but I can get an artificial one up. McTominay by nature is a very haphazardous player. You could see that with Fred. That's why he took a lot of stick at times for being leaky at the back, because he was always caught out of position, maybe played off the adrenaline of a game too much, and sort of went off his own accord at times, chasing the ball like a lapdog. When you mix that pressing from the front with Bruno Fernandes, who would also want to do it, and then Rashford, who's utilised as that outlet on the counter-attack on the left, it's just disjointed and made it so easy for Manchester City to pass through all game. So when did this cost United? Well, the perfect example would be the second goal. Now, I'm going to show you a few pictures here. You can see that Ederson has the ball and there's a collective press from Manchester United's front 4, but to no avail because they're not tight to any markers and you've got the most technical defensive players in the world on the ball. So it's like a hot knife going through butter when they pick out a player in the middle of the pitch who's completely unmarked. This then has already created a disconnect between Eriksen and Amrabat and the front 4 in itself. So when City did beat Manchester United's man-for-man press, they had all the time in the world on the ball in the middle of the pitch to beat United's midfield press and then pick out Grealish and Bernardo on the left-hand side and effectively have a 2v1 against Dalot every time they wanted. Another problem on top of this was the defence of United's were pinned back because they couldn't leave Haaland and Alvarez alone, which they did anyway. So let's have a little bit of balance. How good were Manchester City? Well, the answer is as good as they usually are, but a few players were particularly impressive this game, and one of them is John Stones. So, Johnny Stones, how has he evolved as a footballer? Well, playing in midfield is a good starting point, and one that I'm sure not a lot of people really expected. We knew he was good on the ball, a lot of City fans did, but the fact that he's so comfortable in that 6 role, so press resistant, it's like he's playing FIFA on semi-pro or something. It is ridiculous. But this game in particular, he was actually operating in that sort of, I suppose you could say the 8 role, but that KDB, Kevin De Bruyne sort of half space. We've seen Trent operate in there, but John Stones really was doing that a lot this game, as you can see by the pictures provided here. He was marauding with the ball. I think that's probably the right word to use. Marauding forward, dragging Man United midfielders out of position, just wreaking havoc really from top to bottom of the pitch. However, there is one player that facilitates Stones in this system to be able to do that role, and it is, of course, Kyle Walker. So, of course, I don't have the tactics board with me right now, but I've got an artificial one here which should suffice. Now, you can see Kyle Walker is a default right back in the system on paper, but what he does when Stones marauds forward is he sort of plays this hybridised right centre-back, right-back role, and the only reason he can do it is because his physical attributes are so good. So if we do lose the ball and there's a turnover of possession, he's got enough recovery pace to deal one-on-one with Rashford and also to deal with any long balls that may have gone in the channels behind, which he did all game. Now, as good as Manchester City are, this is a thing that will have to change when Kyle Walker's either his legs go or he does leave the club, because you physically cannot play this system without him doing that role. It is true that City have very quick defenders, particularly with Josko Gvardiol recently joining, who's not slow himself, but Kyle Walker is borderline an Olympian, put it that way. He's so quick on the ball with his recovery pace that it actually almost allows John Stones to be an extra man both in defence, midfield and sometimes attack. So it's like sometimes it's almost like you're playing against 12 men, let alone 11. But listen, it's nice to be able to say that about City for once, because we're all used to Man United being the team with 12 men at Old Trafford in the past, aren't we? That's called satire. And look, no matter what you think about that penalty that was given City, you know, me personally, I think it was contentious. I think it smacked of inconsistency, because you see that incident 3 or 4 times every Premier League game, and most of the time it'll just get waved away by some fella in the VAR just, you know, maybe watching this video or something, that, you know, anything. He could be doing anything, but he's not watching the game. But bottom line, that was Manchester City's first penalty at Old Trafford since 1992, so we were due one. Anyway, enough of that. We would have won the game anyway. There was one more player who was absolutely imperious and has been for 3 or 4 years now in Manchester City colours, and that man was Rodri. So let's bear in mind, this man is a number 6. His first job, first and foremost, is to be press resistant and break up play. He does that in abundance, and he's got to the point now where he's contributing tenfold consistently at the other end of the pitch. The fact that City have lost their 2 games this season without him paints a picture in itself, but you have to ask the question, how is he doing what he is doing on a football pitch? Well, of course, you've got Bernardo Silva and John Stones, who are great space finders and supplements for Rodri to allow him to push higher up the pitch with little risk of there being a possession turnover. But with that said, the volume of what he is doing on a football pitch is just preposterous. So let's go through it. Firstly, there was the pass to Kyle Walker at 0-0, looped over the back line, headed back to Foden. That was saved by Onana, and Haaland should have finished that chance, but Rodri ultimately created it. Then he won the penalty. Now, whatever you think about that, you can leave a comment down below, but listen, he won it at the end of the day. It was him who drew the foul, so that's another attacking contribution right there. And then the ball over to Alvarez for the second goal, which was, again, creating from deep, time and space on the ball, having time to pick out the pass and executing it to perfection. And then he also created the third by marauding forward and clarting. Peter Drury used the word clarting, which I didn't think was in his lexicon or was very Shakespearean, but he clarted the ball at Onana, which was rebounded to Erling Haaland, who then squared it to Phil Foden. So he also somewhat created the third goal as well. So that now leaves Rodri as the player who has created the most big chances for Manchester City this season so far. Now we're 10 games in, and he's done that from 6. So all I'm saying is that award ceremony that's going on at the moment, called the Ballon d'Or, you might be talking about the wrong guys to win it. With all that said, after a scoreline like that and 2 performances that were so contrasting from City and United in a game like that, it does beg the question, what is the gulf between Manchester City and Manchester United? Well, if you look at Manchester City, you've got the CFA, you've got Pep Guardiola, you've got the same integration of style throughout the under-12s to the first team, you've got players just being replaced in the first team and fitting like a glove seamlessly. They're all on the same page. Whereas at Manchester United, they can't really read, to be honest with you. Where do you even start with them? Like, there's no one answer as to what is the biggest problem at Manchester United. People point towards the ownership, people would always look at the management because he's the one who gets the players playing a certain way. But for me, I'd probably say one of the biggest things looking at the team yesterday was the wage structure that's at the club, and you know years of mismanagement really dating back to Ed Woodward, because you look at their inability to shift Deadwood, let's say, the likes of McTominay, Martial, Maguire, on big wage packets. There and then in a position they have the leverage to be able to veto any move away because they want to sit tight on the 200 grand a week, which I suppose is fair enough. And another way of looking at it is this. You look at the back line from yesterday, you've got Dalot and Lindelof at fullback, who were both signed by Jose Mourinho. You've got Harry Maguire at centre-back, who was signed by Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And then Johnny Evans in there, who is effectively just a stopgap for the time being, but is 35 years old nonetheless. Bottom line, that is not a back four that can really be challenging for trophies. Definitely not trophies, but maybe not top 4 either. I know a lot of United fans myself, and saw some on Twitter who were looking at that lineup before the game and almost felt like they'd been beat before a ball had even been kicked. And that's not even just against Manchester City. You have the Brighton game as well, who are obviously a very good side, and they felt like they were going to get turned over by them too, by just looking at the team sheet. And that translates onto the pitch as well, ultimately, doesn't it? It feels like the United players are going out at the moment knowing that they're going to see none of the ball and not really know what to do with it when they do get the ball. So, do you look towards mismanagement from the board above and the Glazers and Woodward in the past? Or do you look at the coach who's implementing those styles on the pitch? Well, that's for you to answer in the comments. Anyway, that is me done for my first video. Make sure you do subscribe. We like to see that number rising. Pretty nice first video for me, talking about why Manchester City are good and Manchester United are bad. Nice and easy for me to do. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. As I said, the setup will be a little bit better next time. Well, not next time, but in the near future, you know what I mean, when we move into the studio, because I am literally just in my bedroom right now. But with that said, hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.